Blessings, Divine Reflection! Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Idalis. I'm a healer, a psychic, and purveyor of the stars. On this channel, I love to talk about esoterica, the occult, the spiritual journey, and give you practical tools to help you along your spiritual journey. Today's tool is maybe perhaps less so practical, but it's fun! Quite recently, I personally have connected with the Fae Kingdom and felt inspired to make this video. If you're ever wondering what inspires my content and how I get ideas for content, it's just truly my life. I truly am just walking in spirit and connected to all of these different realms. Also, if you would like a personal in-depth session with me, all of the links for that are in the bio. And with that being said, let's get into today's video, which is all about the fairy kingdom, the history and the folklore surrounding them, the different types of fairies there are, and then I'm also going to be giving you all of the ways that you can connect to these different types of fairies. So I'm excited. I hope you are too. Buckle up, it's gonna be a good one. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the video. Okay, so who are fairies? So the Fae have revealed themselves to me in my life as spirits of bright and playful energy, and I also got a very guardian protector energy from my interaction with them. But they are traditionally known as being elemental spirits of the world, and they include gnomes and goblins, elves and pixies, even mermaids, which we'll get into later in the video. Folklore surrounding fairies dates back to ancient culture, but the mythologies of the Irish and European folklore are some of the most pervasive and have remained the most popular over time. The fairies are traditionally called Shūi, so even though fairies do take on a very bright and playful energy, they haven't always been seen as benevolent spirits. They're known to be little tricksters and, might steal a thing or two from your nightstand or even kitchen cutlery. They're known to steal back the raw materials and metals from the earth. It is said that the richness of earth belongs to the fairies. And it is also known that fairies have a bad temper and can cause havoc if you do not treat them respectfully. They can even cause bad luck and ill wishes upon your life. In Christianity, actually, the fairies were given a very bad name. They were said to be fallen angels who were banished to the fairy realm, where they could possess neither the qualities of God nor possess the qualities of man. Instead, they existed in this kind of ephemeral space, timeless space, that was unchanging. In European folklore, to explain the illness of children and birth deformities, they would blame fairies for taking the souls of their children, and they called these children changelings. But to pagans, they are not only spirits of ancestors and people who have passed on, but they are also the elemental spirits of nature. And in this video, we're going to lean more toward pagan beliefs. So for those wondering, fairies live in the holes of hill mounds, in forest clearings and meadows. It was common not to have a fairy in the household in small European villages. They were spoken about very commonly and were respected as real spirits. A common fairy breakfast meal offering includes sweetbreads, milk and honey, berries, and the nectar of flowers. You can leave these offerings for fairies to invite them into your space or with the intention of connecting with them or honoring them. Okay, now let's get into the elementals. First up, we have the water fairies, who are very charming and seductive, mysterious, and all-consuming, right? But connecting to water fairies can also help us in healing and also connecting to perhaps intuitive gifts in the world beyond the practicality of the physical world. So the fairy of the water spirits is mermaids, and there are different types of mermaids that exist in all cultures all around the world. There are the Selkie of the Scots, the Undine of the Greeks, there's the NINGYO of Japan, as well as the Nixon of Germany, and the list goes on. You can find a mermaid that connects to your specific culture or one that you connect with. And also I recommend reading up on their mythology. The mythologies of the spirits that you connect to offer a lot of guidance and also a deeper understanding of their energy. You can connect to water fairies, the mermaids, by spending time playing by bodies of water. So skipping stones, maybe even building a sandcastle. Okay, adults can build sandcastles too officially. Also collecting the stuff of the sea, such as seaweed and shells and sea glass, can be a great way to connect to water energy as well. Maybe keep them at a sacred space. Put them in a bath ritual, which brings me to my second tip, which is to do a ritual bath with the intention of connecting with fairy energy, maybe to take on the energies of mermaids, right? That kind of beautiful, captivating energy, right? That's also quite seductive and sensual. And then 3, connecting with crystals that have water energy in them, that being aquamarine, jade, chrysocolla, and moonstone. Love all of those stones so much. And then of course you can also hang images of the water and the ocean and the sea in your home or at a sacred space. Next up, we have the Air Fairies. The air element is connected to our thoughts and the mental space, mental clarity and mental agility, as well as communication in all forms. Air is also the invisible life force that allows us to see and breathe. So it's pretty important. It's a pretty important quality. And air is also connected to purity. So there are 3 really significant air spirits that I want to talk about with you today. The first being the Valkyrie. So the Valkyrie were Norse battle maidens of the god Odin, who would slay people with their lightning strike, but they would only slay people who were worthy of entering Valhalla, which was essentially a kingdom hall of warriors and fallen champions. Odin himself was a god that resided in the clouds. There was a very air quality to him, and also had 2 ravens by his side that would send and receive messages for him. So you could connect to Odin by using the significance of ravens perhaps, or of lightning. Next up we have the white buffalo calf woman, who is a Native American spirit who also emerged from a cloud and appeared to the Lakota tribe as a white buffalo as well. And the white buffalo was very significant of life force energy to the Lakota tribe. It's where they got the bones for their weapons, it's where they got the skin for their clothes, as well as the meat for their food. The white buffalo calf woman also offered a peace pipe to the people of the Lakota, which was a symbol of masculine and feminine forms, the bowl representing femininity and the stick representing the masculine energy, and of course the smoke representing an ephemeral connection to an otherworldly force. She is also a protector over Mother Earth, so a very beautiful air spirit to connect to. And lastly, for the air spirits, we have the 4 winds, okay? Now, the 4 winds are actually based in Western occultism and can be used to open up a circle and protect one in their magical workings. So instead of calling upon the 4 elements, you would call upon the 4 winds, which also embody the 4 elements. So there is Urius, who is the Lord of the East, which typically represents air, and also new beginnings. There is Notice, who is the lord of the south and the warmer winds, which is typically associated with fire. There is Zephyrus, who is the lord of the west. The west typically represents water and is also associated with the evening time as well as self-realization. And then finally there is Boreas of the north, the northern winds, which typically represents earth, and also practicality as well as protection. So there are a couple of different ways to find an air fairy. The first one being connecting to trees. Trees are intermediaries between the earth and the sky. And then secondly, you can clear the air literally. You can do this by using uplifting sounds or a cleansing wand. There's a bunch of different sage smudge sticks that you can purchase, or just open a window and allow fresh air to enter your space. And then the last way you can connect to the element of air or the spirits of air and air fairies is by connecting to crystals that have the quality of air in them. So that being blue calcite, labradorite, azurite, as well as lapis lazuli. You can conjure up the power of air and use it to your benefit if you need help passing a written exam, for example, or giving an important presentation, right? Because of the correspondence there to communication. But also if you just need help clearing the mental space, clearing the mind, connecting to the air element is a really powerful way to do so. Okay, next up we have Fire Fairies. Now, the element of fire and the fairies and spirits that embody fiery aspects are connected to passion, creativity, invigoration, vitality, creativity, as well as power and force. So there are two prominent fire spirits that I want to talk about with you today. The first being, of course, dragons who breathe fire. Okay, dragon spirits have incredible, immense, powerful energy and embody strength and force. Now, dragons have a long history in association with human beings and were threatened at one point in history, and because of this have hidden themselves deep within the spiritual world, within the spiritual realms. Connecting to a dragon spirit might prove to be difficult and are only revealed to those who want to use their power for good or are pure enough to attract one. You might have also just been born with a dragon. So if you feel that within you, then you can use some of the tips that I'm going to give you later in order to connect with the dragon frequency. For those who wish to abuse the power of dragons and use the power of dragons for their own, will surely be mistaken. Next up we have the jinn, which are Arabian fairies or genies. And these creatures are actually described in the Quran and are shapeshifters and will shapeshift into dogs, cats, snakes, and lurk in ruins or in marketplaces. To those that are able to conjure a genie will be revealed the future, but a genie will only be revealed to the sorcerer using the right spell word. The most common place to find a genie would be in a climate that is dry and arid. So I'm going to give you 5 tips to connect to fire fairies and the energy of the fire spirits. The first one being staring into a fire and using pyromancy, right, to see images in the fire, or just by feeling and breathing and experiencing the element in its beauty and power. The second way to connect to the fire fairies is by lighting candles, specifically red, orange, or yellow candles. You can do so to attract perhaps more creativity or success in your respective field, or with the intention of meeting a fairy. Number 3 is by using sensuous music. Okay, drum beats are a great way to connect to this kind of like primal, instinctual essence that we all embody. Number 4 is to meditate on crystals that have fiery energy to them. That being sunstone, amber, garnet, and tiger's eye. And then you can also use scents to connect to fire energy, such as cedar, cinnamon, and orange. And lastly, of the elemental spirits, we have the Earth Fairies, which are the most commonly known amongst the fairies. And all of the Earth spirits or Earth Fairies are given the name gnomes. So all of the Earth spirits are gnomes. So I have a couple of different Earth Fairies to list out for you. First up, we have the leprechauns. Leprechauns are a symbol that we will always be provided for and that there is never lack. The earth is a bounteous place that has more than enough for every single person, and its resources are incredibly vast. Leprechauns show us that there will always be more than enough. Next up, we have the dwarves, which guard the treasures of the earth. Third, we have the pixies, which are actually green sprites that dance on the tops of hills and braid the manes of wild ponies. Pixies encourage us to have a lighthearted nature about life. Fourth, we have the green man, who is a beautiful, beautiful earth spirit who embodies all of nature. Wherever there is green, the green man is there, and green man is as old as earth, so like 4.5 billion years old. There's so much wisdom and memory. And lastly, we have the giants, which represent the vastness and the largeness of nature. So think mountainous landscapes and trails of rivers. So if you want to connect with the Earth Fairies in order to attract prosperity, healthy finances, or to attract a deeper sense of organization within your life or your mind, or perhaps you are ungrounded and need to find tools to ground yourself in physical reality, then connecting with the Earth Fairies are for you. There are also fairies of different types of flowers and trees, so every single flower type and every single type of tree all have their own fairy that's connected to it. So yeah, some ways that you can connect to the Earth Fairies is one, by using scents such as patchouli, honeysuckle, vervain, and cloves. You can also use crystals such as moss agate, jaspers, onyx, and obsidian, which connects you to the Earth Star chakra. And then lastly, you can connect with the gods and goddesses of the underworld. There are so many of every single type of pantheon, so definitely do your research on which one most resonates with you. Okay, and then lastly, we'll just talk briefly about the different types of house fairies that there are. So there are familiars, which are house pets, lars, which are essentially the spirits of ancestors who have passed on and look over the houses and the people in the houses' well-being and prosperity. There are also the brownies, who do housework and chores, so think Dobby from Harry Potter. They don't like rewards that are too big and instead will sweep the floors for you and like do your dishes. And then there are also hobgoblins, which live typically on farms. So fairies come to you when you have a lightheartedness in your heart and you've kept your inner child alive. They come to you in solitude or when you are in nature. Finding more time in your life to bask in leisure, right? And to find time to be bored essentially and let the mind wander and roam could be a really great way to invite fairy energy into your life and to open yourself up to experiencing a fairy. And then of course, keeping the house tidy and clean, and perhaps inviting fresh flowers into your space, right? Or leaving offerings for fairies outside of the home or at a sacred space. And then also accessing that in-between space of this world and the other world could be a great way to connect with fairies. So the way I connected with my fairy was right before I was about to go to sleep, and I felt the presence of a fairy by my side. Like, some might say I was dreaming, but I know what I saw, I know what I felt, okay? I'm tapped in. Those who have kept their inner child alive will believe me and will choose to believe, and those who haven't, you need to work on it, okay? So yeah, accessing that in-between space, like right before you go to sleep or in meditation, can also be a really great time to connect with a fairy. And that concludes the video all about fairies and the fairy kingdom. I'm so happy that you could join me today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got something from it. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell because I'm making videos every single week. Bye!